Hello and welcome to the Smart Divorce Podcast. I'm so happy to be joined today by divorce coaches Sally Jackson and Julia Moreno. I think I said that. Have I said that right, Julia?
Correct, yes.
Awesome. This is a good start. Okay, so Sally is a divorce coach who specialises in enabling divorcing professional midlife women to gain clarity, making empowered decisions and taking courageous action, saving them time, money and stress. I love the idea of courageous action. That is a fabulous thing. Julia Moreno is a divorce coach and family law solicitor with a mission to offer individuals and couples a kinder and better journey in their separation and divorce, taking into consideration the wellbeing needs of the family, which is something that's incredibly close to my heart. Sally and Julia have joined forces recently as the founders of Reclaim Your Life Retreat, which I'm really hoping they're going to tell you a bit about as well before we finish this episode. This retreat was specifically created to empower and positively transform women experiencing separation and divorce. And today we are going to talk about who you want to be during your divorce. So I open this up to both of you. So we're going to talk about having a vision for your divorce. So why is it beneficial to establish a vision for your divorce?
I'm happy to start. But first of all, thank you, Tamsin, for having us here. And in answer to your question, why is it beneficial? It's because a vision serves as a compass. It's what keeps you on track, guiding your decisions and actions towards your desired outcome. Without a vision, it's easy to behave impulsively and potentially cause more harm than good. Some people may be driven by immediate concerns, thinking only about the now, or led by strong emotions like anger or revenge, without taking into consideration the implications of their current actions. It is helpful to ask yourself questions like, how do I want to feel at the end of the divorce process? What type of divorce do I want? What kind of relationship do I want to have with my former spouse, partner after the divorce? Let's take this last question. And for instance, if you have a vision that you wish to maintain a positive co-parenting relationship, you are more likely to steer your actions in that direction. You are not just winging it. You are making deliberate choices. Maybe in a heated moment, you pause and take a moment to breathe and think so that you are responding rather than reacting. Or you try to be mindful of your communication, watching your tone, your body language, or your words, and finding ways to work together, especially if children are involved. In the middle of the complexities of divorce, establishing a vision provides three things: clarity, direction, and a sense of purpose. As I said before, it's your compass guiding you through the toughest times and keeping you in line with what really matters. Your goals, which you could call them intentions or objectives if you prefer, and also your priorities.
Love that. I love the idea of creating a vision for your divorce. It sounds incredibly difficult to do in a heightened emotional state. How on earth do you get people who are in a revenge mindset or as I say, highly heightened emotional state to even start to think about their vision, Sally? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that it's almost like a step before that for me. So
Okay.
if you don't feel that you are worth it, if you don't believe that you deserve, then it doesn't matter how much you design a vision, you're not going to buy into it. So if that voice in your head is saying to you, or even if your actions are saying to you, so let's say you're doing everything for your children and you're ignoring your own needs. You're telling yourself you don't have time to meet a friend for a walk, and you are grabbing a packet of crisps and a glass of wine because you don't have time to prepare yourself dinner, or you're too exhausted, or you're just absolutely on the floor in terms of distress. That gives a really strong message. I don't matter. I'm not important. And so for me, it's absolutely crucial to work on identifying what your needs are. So what do you need? Not to be great, but to be okay. And what needs to be in place for you to make that happen? So I would always start with my clients with, down to those real basics of how much time do you need alone? How much time do you need with friends? How much sleep do you need? What exercise do you need? And actually making a plan to get that in place so you are honoring yourself. And when you've done that, then you'll be ready to start working on your vision. So for me, until that's in place, you can't really work on a vision.
That's
Sally,
fascinating. Sorry, Julie.
yeah,
That
no, I was going to say I totally agree that she's absolutely right. You need to reach that stage of accepting that you matter, and then you can move on to establish your vision. And I think answering back to your question, Tamsin, once you have reached that stage that Sally has talked about, you start with deep reflection and self-discovery. You have to take some time to reflect on what matters most to you, what is most important, and you have to think about your values, your priorities for yourself and your family, your non-negotiables. It is much, much easier to set your vision when you have given yourself the space to think about this. And you could start by with something simple like writing a daily journal, which will help you and will begin to elicit what's important to you. You may also want to start thinking about your desired outcome, what you want to achieve, and as Sally said, what your needs are, and also considering the needs of your family, and what is okay and what is not okay, and how you are going to communicate that. Are you going to do it in a respectful way that clearly states what your wishes, what your needs are, and then trying to find ways to work together to achieve it. For example, I had a client that when she made the decision to divorce, she was absolutely clear that she wanted to prioritize her children's well-being above all else, and that's something quite common with many clients, and because they are conscious of the impact that the divorce can have on their children. So this client, she wanted them to feel loved and supported throughout the process, regardless of the changes that were happening in the family dynamic. But by being clear on her vision, she approached each decision with the intention of creating a positive and healthier environment for herself and her family.
Yeah, going back to, sorry, Tamsin, going back to what you were saying, emotional, the whirlwind of emotions, absolutely, they can cloud your judgment. So that's about well, in my mind, that's about working with a coach, because it really is about learning what those emotions mean and how sometimes we cover one emotion with another. So, for example, we might have grown up with the idea that anger is not a good thing, and therefore we're not actually allowing ourselves to express that anger. So if you can work with a coach who can hold you in that anger, can actually give you that space to feel safe to express it, then that obviously is going to be very, very helpful. And of course, there are things you can do to process your emotions, and becoming aware of what emotional state you're in, and also what the emotions mean. I mean, anger usually means someone's crossed a boundary. It's a warning sign. It's saying, hang on a second, I want to be heard. So learning those kind of things, I think, what we're really talking about here is divorce is a huge personal development journey when you get it right. You learn to deal with all these things that perhaps through most of your life you've actually avoided.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's spot on. I think that certainly clients that I've worked with, you do tend to find that there's one person who is emotionally ready for divorce, and quite often the person who's made that decision, and the other is way, way off on that emotional journey, and they almost need to, so that you can redress the balance, so that sensible decisions can be made. You kind of got to get that under control before you can start before you can start making any decisions, before you can start even thinking about what you want to be like, and all those things. I think that has to come back. But something that you were saying about children, about putting them first, about giving yourself the space and having the self-worth for yourself. My experience as a mother would be that we tend to, and I'm not disrespecting dads in this in any way, because there are some wonderful fathers who do exactly the same thing, but I do feel that it's more perhaps of a female trait, is that you do put your children first. It doesn't matter whether they're tiny babies or whether they're much older. The responsibility for them, because you grow them inside you as a mother, is that they come first. And absolutely, whilst yes, you need to have self-worth, it's a massive trip to go from that to giving yourself time, to prioritizing. It's like, put your own oxygen mask on first, and we know how important that is, but actually being able to do it is massively important, and can stop you from making poor decisions based upon you putting the kids first and not prioritizing yourself. That's something you obviously find in your work, Sally, from what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see it more with older teenagers and adult children, and actually sometimes, guilt tripping their parents. So, I've seen it with, mum, you're not going to, you're not going to take dad's pension, are you? That kind of. So, it goes both ways. It's as a mum, we do all these things, but also then the children feel torn. So that's where having this vision can be so helpful. It really can just give you that track to keep on path. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. So let's assume we've got ourselves in a good space, emotionally, we're ready to create this vision. How do you go about defining a vision, Julie?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like I mentioned before. It's about thinking about what's important to you, and you have to start with thinking about your values, your priorities, your what's your desired outcome, what you need, and And also you need to take into consideration whether once you have established that vision, is thinking about, okay, am I going to find any obstacles? And cannot deny that, no doubt, throughout the process, there will be challenges. And those challenges most likely are going to require patience and resilience and a willingness from you to adapt as you work towards achieving that vision. And it's so you can work on that vision yourself, or you can, depending on your emotional state, you may want to have the support of a professional, of a divorce coach like ourselves. And it's about asking the right questions to help you to get there. And at the start, I mentioned a few helpful questions, like, how do you want to feel after this is over? What kind of relationship you want to have? How do you want yourself to remember this process in the future? How do you want your children to remember it? It's things like that.
And also, I think that visioning isn't just, you do it at the start, and you have that vision, and then obviously you adjust as situations change and things, but also you can vision for aspects of your divorce. So I've got one client, for example, who was just about to sack a lawyer. And I just said, well, let's just step back a bit. Let's just, actually just, because that's what happens when you're going through divorce. Most of us have never been through divorce before. We feel completely out of control. We're second guessing ourselves. We're taking advice from everyone we can think of. And this is what had happened. Somebody had said to her, I don't think you're getting good advice. Bang, she was going to. So what we did was we went, okay, so let's just vision, what does your lawyer look like? Who do they need to be? And then we had the criteria of, I need to be able to afford them. I need to be able to tell them what I need. I need to know that they understand my case. I need to know that they're good at their job. And then we were able to go, okay, so if that's your vision, then what evidence is there with your current lawyer that they're actually doing that? And sure enough, the evidence was there. And we were able to say, okay, fine, so stick with your lawyer. But if you haven't got that person just saying, stop, breathe, hang on a minute, we need to look at a vision here. We need to just step back a bit. So it's not even just about the whole thing. It can be about small sections.
I like that. There's so much everybody else wanting to hail advice at you during the divorce process. The man down the pub says, oh, well, I got a much better settlement than's on the table for you, forgetting that actually their situation is completely different to your situation, and therefore why would you end up with the same settlement where the process is so very different? Almost all of my clients are, one situation is different from all of the others, so why would you end up with the same settlement as somebody else? It just makes no sense.
Correct. Yeah, because they only think about the assets and the income, but there are other factors that are taken into consideration, the age, how many children they have, their standard of living, earning capacities, and as you rightly say, every single case is different.
Yeah,
I've got one client who her brother's a corporate lawyer, and we got a very clear intention that she wanted a fair financial settlement. And then he was like, let's go for it. Let's win at all costs. Let's, get as much as we can. And I had to kind of say to her, well, have things changed? Because that wasn't where you started, and so just coming back to that vision again of just so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing I'm interested in, and it's something that has crossed my path many, many times over the last few years that I've been doing this work, is having a vision yourself of what you want to feel after the divorce, and what you're looking for from the divorce process for it to be fair and equitable not equal, equitable,
Mm-hmm.
is wonderful. But what if the other party is up for a fight and a day in court and has completely different values and mindset to you and wants to be able to tell their story to a judge and say what a bad person you are, etc. How can the vision help you deal with that situation where the other party is paramount opposite to you?
Julia, you've got an example of that.
Yeah. It's quite common for there to be some conflict or tension between a couple, and if you find yourself in that situation that you describe, it can really complicate things when you are trying to follow your vision and trying to work together. So, although you still have your vision, you have to try to find you need to try to be constructive and try to find compromise, and while staying true to your core objectives, provided that your own expectations are also fair and reasonable. And that's why you should have advice as well from an expert, from a lawyer, as to what are your rights and entitlements, so that also you're within your vision, you are not pursuing something that it's not equitable or fair. And sometimes when you find yourself in these situations, aside from having the assistance of emotional management and using tools like tools to manage any conflict, how to reduce it and to have better communication, sometimes you need to take the lead role. One person needs to lead by example and set a tone of cooperation for the other to follow. Because your behavior can significantly impact the outcome. And it's about, if you demonstrate your best self and you act in ways that reflect your dignified vision in the face of adversity, then you're gonna feel much better. And yes, there will be when you are dealing with someone who is not cooperating, being difficult, and so on, the most you can do is to act in accordance with your values and seek the help. Be your best self and seek the help from others, because you are only in control of your own behavior, of your own words and your own actions. You are not in control of what the other does or say, but the best you can do is to be a role model and be your best self.
And ask yourself, in 5 years' time, how do I want to look back on this? How do I want my children to look back on this? Keep the big picture in your vision.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because you are only in control of what you do. You can't control the behavior of others. Yeah, a number of examples recently where there's been a lot of toing and froing between clients and their future ex-spouses, and constant emailing from one to another with words that are not necessarily constructive, and communication that isn't necessarily helpful. And it is this heightened emotional state, and it's not kind of taking a step back and thinking, actually, is this moving us forward towards a decision? Or actually, is this just adding fuel to the fire? I think.
Yeah, it's for one of them to break that chain. And so in that example you are saying, there are communication issues, and but if one of them takes a stand back and learns to communicate better, by listening more, by showing more empathy, more understanding. And then if it's written communication, using techniques to minimize the conflict, like, don't know if you heard of the beef technique. So being brief, informative, firm, and factual, then those communications can improve. But as long as both are being antagonistic, then that's just going to continue.
And we could talk about this for hours, to be honest. But
oh, yes.
The other side of that, isn't it? You know, you want to be true to yourself, but you also want to be really clear about your boundaries. You know, when someone is treating you in a way you do not want to hear, it's about stating that, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. And these conversations are not always, but often, if they're not constructive, are better to be done by a third party, a professional, a lawyer, a mediator. You know, somebody who stands between you and the person that you're divorcing, and not in all cases, but I think where the communication's at that point where it's just war of words. It's like, well, step back and let somebody else have that communication.
Yeah, provided they also need to be conscious of making the right choice of lawyer, because
yeah, that's true.
Most lawyers, we obviously we have the best intentions, but there are specific lawyers that they do want a battle, and they like to fight. Yeah. And some people, they look for that a specific lawyer. And another option is that, for example, for this couple that don't know how to communicate with each other, they could also explore going to using a third party. So like going to mediation and having a mediator that helps them to have those conversations and expressing their wishes and their needs. And if they are uncomfortable being in the same room, nowadays there is what is called hybrid mediation. So they could be in separate rooms, and the mediator is the one communicating on their behalf. So there are ways always to try to find solutions, but there needs to be that willingness to find that solution.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm interested in the process that you go through, Sally, to create this vision, and once it's created, how you support your clients through the process to keep returning to that. I know you've spoken a bit about the kind of sort of small visions going through, but the overarching vision, how do you go about creating those with your clients, and how is that supported through the process?
Well, I think it is the questions that Julia brought up at the start. Sure. And then also, if I take one example, if I think about future planning, so envisaging, you know, how you want your post-divorce life to look like. I had one client recently who she's had to leave the family home. She's had to take a role that has accommodation, and she's having significant health issues. And so she was feeling really trapped. And by getting her to envisage her future, which is actually that she wants a home which she can run as an Airbnb, which is a beautiful space where she can welcome people into her home, where she can manage that around her health, helping her to just literally visualize that through a meditation, actually, really, it changed her mindset from seeing herself as being trapped to feeling as though this was a place of safety until she could reach her vision. So I don't know if that partly answers your question. I mean, obviously there are many different ways you go about it.
Yeah, I think what I'm interested in is I mean, that's a great example because you're using meditation techniques. So, and I'm thinking of how that vision is kept in the focus. So is it a written document? Is it I mean, I have vision boards all over the place because I've created them over the years. I have love vision boards. But is it something like a vision board? Is it a list? Is it a post-it note on the mirror when you get up in the morning? How do you make sure that your clients keep coming back and keeping those answers to those questions front and center through the process?
Every client's different. And you know, some are visual, some are auditory, some of my clients will have a voice note that they'll listen to first thing in the morning. Some will have that post-it note, some will have a vision board, some will have it written down as a piece of prose, some will actually create their own you know, word art with the key words in it. Everyone is different, and it's so important that they create something that is meaningful to them and that works for them.
Sure, I love that. I think this is a really, because this is much deeper than just divorce, actually, isn't it? This is more a vision to how you live your life. This is one kind of part of it, and I think the skills and techniques and practical solutions that you're helping people develop through the divorce process actually would be massively important in creating their new chapter and moving on to living the life that they design after divorce as well. It's fascinating, and I'm obviously people do think, as you said, Sally, in so many different ways, and different techniques and different skills are useful. How do you find out which reminders, which mindset things are going to help the particular client that you're working with? I don't know if you want to take that, Julia.
So what kind of mindset is going to help the client in relation to thinking about their vision and what they want to achieve?
Yeah, so what reminders are going to work for what people? How do you know I'm going to do a mediation with this person, I'm going to do a vision board with this person, I'm going to help them create some word art? How do you get into that with a client?
Oh, well, usually with my clients, if we have like action plans, and what I observe is that many of my clients find it helpful to have accountability. So when we are thinking about actions and steps, we think about how long will it take. We set realistic expectations and dates by when those things need to happen. So we diarize them. And when we after the session, what I do is I ask them to come back to me with, well, first at the end of the session, we recap. And then after the session, I do a follow-up email asking the client what we had agreed during the session, so that it's also another way for them to remember the steps. And it is diarized, and they have their own. They keep track by themselves, but also if they are working with me for a period of time, sometimes depending on their emotional state, I also assist them and send reminders, because you're working with different clients, and when you are working with them, you know whether because they have different personalities as well, and the different emotional stages, you know whether they need more hand holding from you or less. But ultimately, you have to reach to a stage where they are able to make their own decisions and being independent, and as we continue working together, they eventually reach that. But also, when we are considering that plan, we are also considering what could interfere, what could happen that could derail that plan. And we talk about that, and we talk about alternatives in case that happen. So so clients feel confident and they feel empowered and they are clear of, okay, this is my plan A, but if I cannot get there, then this is my plan B. And because every little step counts, and there can be changes of circumstances. There can be unexpected challenges. So what's important is that you adapt to the situation and then you don't give up. And it's just simply taking those little steps that are getting you to where you want to be or what you want to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think what I've understood from what you've both said, and correct me if I'm wrong in what I'm saying, but you're almost tapping into people's personality and spiritual sides to move them forward on a personal development role. So even though you're divorce coaches, actually it's almost, I'm not saying it's not relevant because obviously it is, because that's the support that you're giving somebody through that process, but actually it's a lot bigger than that. What people who work with you are ending up with is personal development on a much greater scale than that. And I think that's why the work that you do is so incredibly important. And and it's so often missed out because with, relationships coming to an end and we go, oh, go and see a lawyer, and everything else is out the window, forgotten, and there are these huge steps that we need to take to make sure that the life we end up with afterwards is as a result of personal development through that process as well.
Yeah, so
you're both nodding.
Yes,
effectively you grow through your divorce. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because when you are in the middle of that emotional turmoil, you tend to think about just the now, and you don't think about the after. And one of the things that led me to train as a divorce coach after being many years a family solicitor is that I realized that as a lawyer, you are helping the client until they receive their final order of divorce, or what it was called the decree absolute before. And then you don't tend to be with that client. But for that client, it doesn't end there. There are a lot of things that are happening after. And so when I had my personal experience, I had that insight. I said, oh, we are just a lawyer. It's only a small piece of the puzzle, and yes, they can help you to sort out the legal aspects, but there is so much more, because the divorce has such an impact on all areas of your life, and as you know, it can affect you as a person. It can affect your relationships with others, family, friends, and so on. It can affect you at work, your career, and with your relationship with your children, and it has such a huge impact. And it involves change, and who a lawyer cannot help you to deal with just that change.
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming to the end of our time together, which I'm gobsmacked by, because it's flown and I could talk to you for hours. Sally, I want to make sure that we mention the retreat and what people can get from the retreat that you're working on, when it is. Just let us have all the details, if you would.
So it's the end of May. It's in Girona in Spain. It's your opportunity to, if you like, go on a transformational journey for 3 days. So it's for perhaps somebody who currently isn't working with a coach, who's finding it very overwhelming, who maybe doesn't feel like they've got the time on a day-to-day basis and would like a sort of 3-day intense support and help, but also to have 3 days of being nurtured and relaxed, have opportunity to unwind and be supportive with other women. I think that's That's it. It's the retreat I would have liked to have had when I was going through my divorce, definitely.
I feel like it's the retreat I'd quite like to have now, to be honest with you, Sally. And many years through my divorce. Sounds wonderful. And if anybody's listening to this podcast after May and they've missed the May 24, this is not a one-off. You are planning on running more of these retreats, aren't you?
Yeah, we're running them twice a year. Yeah.
Excellent. So you haven't missed the boat if you're not listening to this before May 2024. If you are listening to it and you would like to contact Julia and Sally and find out more about their retreat, all the details are in the show notes, how to get hold of them. Places are filling up, so I'm sure you need to get a wriggle on and get booking with them if you are interested. Ladies, thank you so much. That was absolutely fascinating conversation, and I'm sure it will prove very helpful to lots of our listeners.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tamsin. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.